A couple of weeks ago, I did a curl cream battle that included the Not Your Mother's Curl Talk Defining Cream. And while I was doing my research for that particular battle, I discovered that the Not Your Mother's team had changed the formula for this defining cream. I was a little bit bummed out because that has always been one of my holy grail products. If I need a good hair day, that was one of the products I reached for. That and the sculpting gel paired together always gives me good results. So I decided to test out the old formula against the new formula. Luckily, because I had done that battle, I had already tried out the old formula all on its own, no other products paired with it. So all I had to do was then go in and try the new formula all on its own. Now, the results for that was very drastically different. This is kind of a part 2 to that. When I'm not doing a battle, I always pair a foam, a mousse, a gel, something with my curl creams. I don't tend to use them as one and done products. So I wanted to test this new formula against the old formula, but both of them paired with the same gel. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about those 2 different wash days, and we're going to look at the results and the longevity of those. So let's go ahead and move into that. If you are new to my channel, hi, my name is Lena and welcome to my bathroom. And if you do like content like this, please do like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. Before I move through these 2 different wash days, there's a few things I want to touch on here first. And the first big one really is that I do very highly recommend that you watch the first part of this video, because I go into a lot more detail about what changes have actually been made and how they might impact your hair and whether or not you might like the new formula over the old formula, because I know a lot of people had issues with the old formula, and you might find that that has changed. Not only that, but I do feel like it's kind of interesting to see the difference between a curl cream all on its own versus a curl cream with a gel over the top of it. The other thing I wanted to comment here very briefly is there are a few things that I have learned since posting that last video. One of which is that in that last video I had said that the new formula doesn't have any hold ingredients. That's not necessarily true. The hydrolyzed cornstarch that is now the second ingredient is technically a film forming humectant, which means it's going to give you a light hold. Another ingredient in here, polyacrylamide, don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but that's technically also a light hold ingredient. So it is going to give you just a tad bit of hold to your hair, but nothing like the old formula that has that polyquat 72. And then the other brief thing that I did want to mention here is just the comment on the packaging. So this is the new packaging. However, if you are looking for the new product, some of them might still look like this. They're slowly transitioning over, but they filled the old bottle with the new formula. So you really just have to check the ingredients list. The main way you're going to know if it's the new formula or the old formula is just that second ingredient. On the new formula, it's a hydrolyzed cornstarch. Also, I think there was another ingredient change that wasn't quite as drastic that came either between these or before this one. So that might be something that's still floating out there too. I'm not really sure. Just for funsies, I am actually going to show you my results first. But with the caveat that I'm not going to tell you which one is which formula. Instead, I'm going to give you this 360 curl tour where you can see it from all different angles, start to analyze it for yourself, and see if you can guess which one was which formula. Let me know in the comments below if you guessed right by the end of the video. I'm curious to see if people can pick up on this or not. So let's go ahead and look at these results. Here was wash day number 1. And here was wash day number 2. Now let's move into the washing routines. Starting out with wash day number 1. Now the first thing I do want to comment on here is I wanted to start this comparison off on the strongest foot possible. So I did go in with the Ion Hard Water shampoo. It's a chelating shampoo that's going to help strip any buildup out of my hair, including hard water buildup. But when you use a strong shampoo like that, you got to follow it up with a mask. So I did. I followed it up with the Shea Moisture, Manuka Honey, and Yogurt mask because that one just always does a really good job for me. That's always been one of my holy grail masks. So that's what I reached for. I worked that through my hair, did my shower routine, all that kind of stuff. And then I got out and scrunched it out. Now, when I do a hair mask, I don't have time to do that and then style my hair typically. So I did decide to do a wash now style later routine. I kind of just got as much moisture out of my hair as possible. We're coming in with the Not Your Mother's Curl Talk leave-in conditioner. I don't like spraying things directly in my hair, so I sprayed it in my hand, worked it through, removed any knots and tangles. And the reason I chose this one is partially obviously just because it goes with the lineup. The other reason though is because this does have a heat protectant in it. After I've washed it, I do diffuse for a couple minutes to get the majority of the moisture out. It's really nice to have that heat protectant in there to help keep it from getting damaged. So I worked that through, diffused my hair for just a couple of minutes, and then let it finish air drying the rest of the way before going to bed. The next day I came back, wetted my hair down very thoroughly like I normally do, and then I sectioned it into 3 before going in with, drumroll please, the new formula. I actually decided to test out the new formula with the gel first. Like my typical routine has always been old then new. I decided to switch things up this time, partially just to throw a wrench in things to see if I could trick you. Let me know if it worked. But I also just was kind of excited to try the new one. I wanted to see how it looked with the gel. So I took a little bit of the new formula, put it between my hands, worked it through them, and then started breaking it through the bottom section. Now, whenever I do a wash now style later routine, my hair does tend to get pretty knotted and tangled again. This doesn't have a ton of slip to it, so it was a little tricky working it through that bottom section. I did have to go in with my Tangle Teaser to help work it through, and then I followed it up with the Not Your Mother's Curl Talk sculpting gel. I personally like to rake a gel through my hair, and this one actually has a pretty decent amount of slip. So I worked that through, went in with my So Soon board bristle brush to help define each individual section before moving into the middle section. I know in my last video I had commented on the fact that I felt like I was constantly having to add more water, which is not normal for me when styling my hair. I have low porosity hair that holds onto that moisture. This time around, I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel like I had to add a ton of water to it. Now that could be a few things. Could be the weather, maybe it's more humid. Could be that my hair just was wetter, that I came in with it wetter this time, so I didn't have to add as much moisture. Or it's also possible that adding the gel over the top of it played a role as well. So anyway, I worked through that middle section and then moved to the top. Then I went in with my Perfect Hair Care towel to micropop any extra water out, and then I deglaze a little bit more of the sculpting gel over the top before diffusing my hair. I diffused my hair for 20 to 25 minutes, and then I used the Curl Keeper clips to clip it up and away and let it air dry the rest of the way. Now when I finished diffusing, I did have a very slight cast to my hair. It was not a very strong one, but it definitely felt like there was a cast there. By the time I came back to fluff and scrunch, that was pretty much gone. So it was very easy to fluff up, scrunch everything out, and get my final results. And this is what it looks like. Moving into wash day number 2. This was a very similar story. Washed my hair, got as much moisture out as possible, went in with the leave-in conditioner to spray in my hand, work it through my hair, and then diffusing for a couple minutes to get it partially dry. After that, I just let it air dry the rest of the way for that night, and then I came back the next day to wet it down. I wet it down very thoroughly, sectioned my hair into 3 before going in on the bottom section with the Not Your Mother's Curl Talk Defining Cream Old formula. So I put a little bit of this in my hand, worked it through that bottom section. This definitely has better slip. Either that or my hair was a little less knotted and tangled, but I don't think that was the case. I think this just has better slip. So I worked it through that bottom section. It worked through more easily. And then I did go in over the top with the sculpting gel. Raked that through my hair as well before going in with my So Soon board bristle brush to define each individual section. The story is exactly the same here. Went through, defined those sections, didn't feel like I had to add any more water other than a few random areas that maybe I just missed, and worked through the bottom, worked up to the middle, and then worked up to the top using the same exact techniques. I did then micropop my hair with my Perfect Hair Care towel to get as much extra moisture out as possible before going in with a little bit more of the gel to glaze over the top of my hair and scrunch in. And then I followed that up by diffusing for about the same amount of time, 20 to 25 minutes. My hair was mostly dry at that point, so I put in some Curl Keeper clips and let it finish air drying the rest of the way. The cast was also a very similar story. It had a very light cast by the time I came back to fluff and scrunch. The cast was pretty much gone. They don't impact the gel. That's kind of what that tells me, is that the gel acted the same on my hair either way. So fluffed, scrunched, and these were my final results. you're noticing what I am noticing at this point, which is that both of these Lush Days looked eerily similar. I actually had to put them in a side-by-side on my computer and watch it again and again to really start to notice any minor differences. Y'all will have to let me know if you agree with me in the comments below. Keep in mind that beyond this point, this really is just digging my fingers in and nitpicking on little tiny minor differences. Starting with the new formula, I found that this gave me some really good volume. I had really good definition down on my more curly sections on the bottom. The wavy section still had some pretty good definition, and in fact there were a couple sections on the left side that I rarely see bend in that way, and so that was very exciting for me. Other things of note here is I felt like overall this gave me a softer appearance. The shine wasn't as strong. That being said, I did still feel like the frizz was pretty decent. I didn't feel like I had a ton of frizz on this routine. It was pretty normal for me. So moving into the old formula, I still had a lot of really good volume, especially on the right side. That had a lot of good volume. However, on the left side, it felt like I had a little bit less volume. Now, I don't know if that was just my hair sitting in a little bit of a different way or what was going on there, but that was something that I had noted. I also noted that down on the bottom where my hair is a little curlier, it still had a lot of really good definition, but I didn't feel like it had quite as much shrinkage as the new formula. That being said, the wavy sections did have a little bit more shrinkage, and I felt like overall it was a little bit more of a cohesive look. This particular product made it all blend together very nicely, and the shine on this one was also a little bit better. It was a little less of a soft appearance. The other thing I wanted to note here was that I did have some frizz in my hair. It was definitely worse than the other one, but I don't think that was the product that did that. That was me taking advantage of a cooler day and a string of hot days to get outside with my daughter. It was a little bit breezy. So that breeze is going to impact the frizz for sure, and I think that's what happened here. It's really hard to control for every variable. I mean, it really is. So these are never going to be perfect. So now that we have determined that there were some very minor differences between the two of these, what about the longevity? Did they hold up the same? So starting off with the new formula, I came back and fluffed up my hair, and this is what it looked like. I was very happy with it. It turned out really good, and I felt like it had held up very nicely. It had a lot of really good definition to it still, especially down on bottom where I have those curlier sections. Those held up so beautifully, and even the wavy sections held up very well. They had fallen a little bit looser, but compared to using this product on its own, they still held pretty well. And then overall, it still just looked very nice and voluminous and looked really good. And the frizz was still pretty reasonable as well. So how did that compare to the old formula? Now, that's actually where we are at right now. And I feel like comparison-wise, I'm not noticing a ton. Some minor, again, nitpicking nuances that I have noticed is that on the new formula, the bottom did still hold up a little better on the new formula, whereas they still held up pretty well here, but again, not quite as tight and defined. The overall volume, I think, is about the same on both of them. And then the frizz, I think this has kind of equalized out now. I don't feel like it's super frizzy anymore. Really, when it comes down to it, I thought this was going to be very drastically different than it was. I thought that after I did this, it was going to go the same way as the last video, where they were drastically different, and I was going to just be bummed that my favorite product was gone. But I actually don't feel that way anymore. I'm a lot less bummed than I was. I do still really like the new formula. I think it worked really well for my hair, and I'm really happy with all of the results. That being said, if you were someone who did not like the old formula because it felt producty on your hair, it just feels like it's putting a film over it, sitting on top of it, not absorbing, I feel like the new formula is going to work much better for you. So I do recommend giving the new one a try if you didn't like the old formula. In fact, I just recommend everybody give this a try. One of the biggest benefits I have found of the Not Your Mother's Curl Talk products is just that they're so easily available. You can get them at drugstores, you can get them at department stores, you can get them at grocery stores a lot of the time too. So it's so available. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I've already had a couple of people reach out to me saying that they've tried the new formula and they actually like it a lot as well. These aren't super pricey. The Not Your Mother's Curl Talk Defining Cream, I think they tend to range somewhere around $8 to $9. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. If you do like content like this, please do like and subscribe. I do post a brand new video almost every Friday. I'm almost there. So hopefully I will see you next time.